Okay. Okay, guys, good day, good morning, and good night. Whatever time of day it is you're watching this right now, grab some popcorn, because today we're talking about movies. Okay, guys, hi, and welcome back to the second ever episode of my cinematic book club. For the second episode already, we are kind of changing up the format. Not changing it up, but I'm just not constricting myself to one format only for this little series. In the first episode, I read a book that a popular movie is based on, that not a lot of people know that there is a book this movie is based on. But for the second episode, I will take your favorite Disney movies and give you book recommendations that I think you might like based on those movies. Okay, first of all, obviously, when we talk about Disney, what most people think about first is the Disney castle, the princesses, the animations that are so classical for Disney. But we're not talking about any of those movies today, because Disney is one of the biggest production companies in all of the world, so they have lots more to offer than just those kids classics, which I'm sure you're aware of. So the movies we're going to talk about today, you might not even know that they are Disney productions, because these movies, they are not advertised like this as a Disney movie. They're kind of like very well known in themselves, and they only happen to be Disney productions. To give you a little example to start this right off, the first movie we're going to talk about is Pirates of the Caribbean. Yes, that's a Disney production, in case you didn't know. It is obviously a very iconic series starring Johnny Depp. I personally love the title music, best of everything about that movie series, but that's just me, right? So, oh yeah, just like one more disclaimer. I don't claim that any of the following books I'm going to recommend to you are like exactly the same as the movies or anything like that, but I think that if you like the vibe of those movies, you might like the vibe or like certain themes in these books, but like obviously they're going to be different, right? So just have that in mind. Okay, so the book I want to recommend to you for all the Pirates of the Caribbean fans out there is Stuart Turton's The Devil and the Dark Water. Now, this novel has only recently been published at the end of 2020. And okay, what is it about? It takes place in, I have my computer right here so I can, because I didn't learn any of this by heart, okay? I didn't memorize any of this, so I need this. This book takes place in 1634, and our protagonist is a very well-known detective who is being transported back to Amsterdam to stand trial for a crime he did or did not maybe commit. And on board the ship that's taking him to Amsterdam, freaky stuff starts happening that people think might be the work of the devil, might be supernatural stuff happening, and him being this detective, even though he's in custody, he takes it upon himself to kind of like solve what's going on. And he has his trusty sidekick who's actually like his bodyguard. And yeah, stuff starts to unravel from there on. I recommend this to you because yeah, it takes place on board of this ship. I think also like the time that's like similar to the movies. I personally don't know at what time the Pirates of the Caribbean movies are supposed to take place, but I think we have a similar vibe going on that front. Plus, like this movie, it has been advertised as like a combination of, well, Sherlock Holmes, because we have this like detective element, right? And Pirates of the Caribbean, because yeah, we're on board a ship, all this freaky stuff starts happening, and we're trying to figure out what's actually going on. So yeah, I read this book right basically when it came out, because Stuart Turton is my boy. I love that man. That is only his second novel ever, and his first novel, which is Seven Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, is for sure one of the best ever novels I've ever read, if not even the best. Honestly, I love that book to death. I want to make another video about that, because I just need to talk about it. I've never heard anyone here on BookTube to talk about it, and that is undeniably one of the best books ever. So yeah, that's why Stuart Turton is my boy. That's why I'm recommending him to you. If you check out that novel, like his second novel, and you like it, definitely please also check out the first one, because it's perfection. Okay, anyways, but we're here to talk about movies. So we are moving on to our next movie, which is actually the newest Disney production, and that is Jungle Cruise. It is still in cinema, so go check it out if you want to. We have Dwayne Johnson starring in another jungle adventure, and honestly, there's something about Dwayne Johnson going on adventures in the jungle that I personally, and I think a lot of people out there, I just love it. I just love it. Like, that man in the jungle on an adventure, I don't need much more in a movie, honestly. So who else is starring in that movie is Emily Blunt. The movie is taking place during like the First World War, and they like going, yes, as the title already said, on like that jungle cruise, because they're like kind of treasure hunting, blah blah blah. But the movie also has some supernatural elements, one could say, which is maybe like kind of similar to the Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, this movie I think has been advertised as a mix of Jumanji, which also starred Dwayne Johnson in the jungle. One of my favorite movies, to be honest. I love that movie to a ridiculous amount. So it's a mix of Jumanji and Pirates of the Caribbean, and I think that describes it quite accurately. And so the book I want to recommend to all fans of Jungle Cruise is James Rollins' Excavation. Now, that is a movie that is a book, I just finished, and okay, it is taking place in the Peruvian and Chilean Andes, and we follow this professor and a group of students working on an excavation site, and they like discover this underground cave and stuff, and then because like their exit gets blocked off, they have to like basically follow through, but there are like all these traps, etc. So it's like kind of like a treasure hunt situation, but there's like also maybe not, like, I would call it supernatural elements playing into like the second half of the novel for sure. I think the author might say that it's not necessarily supposed to be supernatural, but it's like, no, all of this stuff is actually logical. It's just like these things, like these, for example, like a certain element, we just don't know about it in our present time because like they discovered it like back then thousands of years ago, but they considered it to be like too powerful for humans to handle, so they kept it hidden. But yeah, it actually exists, and it has like these magical qualities, and it can like heal people or like whatever. But yeah, it makes perfect sense, you know, you just don't know about it, but it makes perfect sense. And I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna continue reading, right? So for me, it definitely had those like kind of supernatural elements. So I thought, because it has like this this exotic setting, because like, yeah, some points of the story take like place in these like underground caves, right? But then other parts take place in the jungle as well. We are going on like this treasure hunt in the jungle. We have those supernatural elements, so I thought that would be a fitting pair. Okay, moving on to this following movie I love even more than Jumanji, and that says something. We're talking about the National Treasure movies, starring, what's his name? Nicolas Cage and Diane Kruger. Gosh, I love these two movies. I watch them about 20 or 30 times a year, and I'm thriving, okay? So what are these movies about? They are also kind of like modern day treasure hunting movies, but they approach them kind of differently, because they're not like taking place in the jungle. They're not like Indiana Jonesy, but they kind of take a more, that is like definitely the wrong word, but like intellectual take on it, as in like our protagonist is like a historian, is like this, wait, is he a professor? Well, he's like an academic, let's just say it like that, who's like going on this treasure hunt in very well-known landmarks of the United States. And like this story also like features very well-known people of the United States, as like Benjamin Franklin, and like we have a Freemasonry going on, and like we are at Mount Rushmore and at Trinity Church in New York. Like, if you like that kind of vibe, definitely check out these movies. I love them to death. And now the books that I'm going to recommend to you, like, honestly, I'm not sure if this is like way too obvious, but then again, I've never heard anyone kind of like talk about it and like make the connection, but The Lost Symbol by Dan Brown. To me, it has like a very, very similar vibe, because like the Dan Brown novels, especially the ones starring Robert Langdon, who is like the protagonist also of the like Illuminati series, so like Angels and Demons, Da Vinci Code, and Inferno. That's what like that series starring Robert Langdon is called. has like a very similar vibe, because they're also kind of like quote unquote treasure hunting, though the treasure is not necessarily always like a physical thing, but more like also kind of like discovering a secret, more like that. Plus our protagonist is also like this, like Robert Langdon is actually like this Harvard professor, right? So we have again like this academic, this professor going on this treasure hunt, which gives it like a different vibe, I think, to just like any guy going on treasure hunt in like a jungle, right? And like this Illuminati series, I mean, I'm sure you've at least heard about it, maybe you've even read it. That kind of like includes conspiracy theories surrounding the Catholic Church. So they are like all taking place in Europe, and like mostly in Italy, like in Rome and Florence and so on. But like the Lost Symbol novel, it also stars Robert Langdon, but it's like completely separate from like those Da Vinci series novels. And that takes place in America as well. And just like the National Treasure movies, it also features like very well-known landmarks and like people, you know. So yeah, I think it has like the exact same vibe. So maybe this one is kind of too obvious. So I'm going to give you another recommendation for that one. And the other book I want to recommend to you is called The Age by Katherine Neville, and also like the follow-up novel called The Fire. Now this novel, it's also a kind of a treasure hunting or like secret revealing novel about a computer expert called Kat Vellis, and she's getting involved in this like mystery surrounding this like chess set, is that what it's called? That is like supposed to maybe have special powers, and like the pieces of this chess set are like all scattered around the world, and like she has to find them, blah blah blah. And like all these people are of course hunting for it as well, so it's never easy, right? But yeah, these books also include like very well-known figures, like historical figures and like places all around the world. And like personally, I think it's kind of like fun when like people you know, such as like George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, Napoleon, etc., are like part of these stories. Though of course you always have to keep in mind to separate fact from fiction, because like obviously it's fiction what's going on here, but still it's kind of fun to be like, ooh, imagine, right? I don't know. So again, I thought these books had like a similar vibe. So if you like the National Treasure movies, you might like these books. Okay, now we are drastically changing genre and kind of like referencing, gosh, sorry, I keep hitting this table. I'm sorry, wait. And now we're taking it back to like that original kind of like description of Disney. I talked about these like more the princess vibe, the animation, etc. Because the next movie I'm gonna recommend books for you is Enchanted, starring Amy Adams and, oh my god, what's the dude called? Not just Patrick Dempsey, but like the other dude, James Morrison, something like that, I think. So that movie, to me, kind of, it is iconic. So that movie basically takes a perfect Disney fairy tale into the real world. And that, I mean, quite literally, because like our main girl, she said she's not yet a princess, but she's like, yeah, this perfect fairy tale creature, basically. She's living in her perfect fairy tale world, and actually the first part of this movie is animated because it takes place in this perfect world, but then she gets pushed into the well by like the evil witch, by like the evil stepmother, etc. And she's pushed through the well, through the galaxy, through the Milky Way, into our real day world, and she ends up in no other place but New York City. And like her as like this, of course, naive princessy kind of character, she suddenly has to grab her bearings in a very realistic and very like rude place as New York is. It's of course a very funny story, and like the Patrick Dempsey as like this nice guy she meets is like taking care of her, etc. So it's like a very cute movie. I think only like the last part, like the showdown, that's kind of a bit over the top, I think, but everything else in this movie is just like, it's just like heartwarming. It's a cute one, okay? It's a cute one. So first, before I jump into the books for this series, I want to actually recommend to you a movie plus a series kind of, and that is Bewitched. Both the movie and the series are called that. The series was there first. It's like a series of the 60s and 70s. And I don't know, I only watched the movie and not the series, so I can't really give like too much of a hot take on the series, but it's about the same thing basically. Like this witch is like married to this like normal man, and like their life kind of in like the 60s and 70s, but it's like this cute rom-com kind of situation. And like the movie is actually about a movie production of that series, but like the girl that is starring in the movie production is actually a witch, and like her male co-star finds that out, and things start off from there. But I thought it has like a very similar vibe, like the female protagonist of both movies, like Giselle, and I actually don't know like the name of the girl in the movie Bewitched, which Nicole Kidman is playing that, and it has like a very similar vibe, as in like that they're kind of like naively super positive, and they both have like their like little magical powers and stuff, so I think you might enjoy that as well, so check that out. But now to talk about a book recommendation, right, because that's what you're here for. The book I'm gonna recommend to you is actually a series, and it's called Hex and the City, not to be confused with Sex and the City. That is not a Disney Channel production. So yeah, Hex and the City is about a witch, right, coming from like a little, I don't know, small town or like the countryside, I don't even know, to New York as well. So that's already like a parallel we have, moving like from a small place suddenly like to the big city, having to grab her bearings, and of course her being a witch, she's like also different from everybody else, and she doesn't quite fit in, and she has to like find her way around. And like in that sense, I thought it has like a very similar vibe to Enchanted. Plus both our main protagonists have like those magical powers, because like in Enchanted, Giselle, she doesn't like have like real magical powers, but she can like, I don't know, talk to animals and stuff like that. So I thought that would be a very similar vibe, and you might enjoy it. And now, last but not least, the last movie I'm going to talk to you about, that's actually one of those classical Disney animation children movies, and that is Up. Up tells the story of like this grumpy old man who wants to go like on one last adventure basically, and that adventure is that he's taking his entire house and he wants to move it to Venezuela, because that's where his wife, who has unfortunately died, always wanted to go. And so he ties up his house to like a billion colorful balloons and takes the entire thing with him basically. But what he doesn't know is that at the moment that he's taking off, a little Boy Scout happens to be like on his front door, like on his veranda, and so he's taking him with him, and they're like, of course, it's very unlikely pair, and of course at first they don't get along at all, but then it's about how they, I don't know, become a team, because obviously things are not going as they should go, etc. So it's like this very cute, heartwarming story. And I thought a book that has a similar vibe is The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out the Window and Disappeared, because like we also have like our old man protagonist who does not want to be forced to go into a nursing home, because that's also like the original situation in the movie Up, but he decides to like just get up and leave and go on this adventure. Now obviously there are like different aspects to like the movie and the novel, but like this main situation is the same basically, so I thought that would be a good recommendation. Okay then, guys, those are the 5 books and the 5 movies I wanted to talk to you about today. If you have any other movies you want to hear some recommendations for, comment them down below. I can of course also make like a more classical Disney version of this format, as like actually taking those like Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, etc. movies and giving you recommendations for them. Though for that one I would have to do a lot of research, because like that like princess world is not really my expertise, but yeah, I would do it for you guys for sure, you know what I'm saying? Okay. I hope you enjoyed this video. And I'm gonna see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for watching. Bye. By the way, I hope someone out there appreciated the fact that I put these little succulents right there and this fake plant back there to like kind of make this setup pretty and cute. I hope someone noticed. Okay, bye.